Welcome to the Turkey Hunter Podcast with me, your host, Andy Galliano. In this podcast, I share with turkey hunters just like you how to have more turkeys on your hunting property and how to have more successful turkey hunts. I teach you how to do this with tips and interviews with turkey hunting pros, wildlife management tips, and entertaining turkey hunting stories. Tune in weekly as I share proven and simple strategies to help you have more success this turkey season. Make sure to head over to www.iamturkeyhunting.com to subscribe to receive free turkey hunting tips, tactics, strategies, and product reviews. Also, please visit and like my Facebook fan page. Go to Facebook and search I Am Turkey Hunting, and also feel free to post your turkey hunting photos from this past season and let us know where and when you killed your bird. For all of you Twitter users out there, please follow me on Twitter, where my handle is @TurkeyHitman, and I will be sure to follow you back. And now, for this week's show. Hello, and welcome back to this week's episode of the Turkey Hunter Podcast. And this week, I am pleased to bring you part 2 of episode 7, our interview with Harold Knight, where we're talking about turkey hunting public land. In this part of the episode, Harold's going to talk to us about scouting public land, tips on where to find late season turkeys, afternoon hunting tips, and some safety tips. So listen in, we're going to get right into the episode, and I look forward to seeing you on the other side. Getting back to the scouting on public land, you mentioned the competition from the other hunters, and there may be other hunters in the area that you're hunting. When you're scouting the public land looking for that hot spot to hunt, how much consideration do you give to the fact that, this is going to be an area that may be heavily hunted, and are those areas that you're more likely to overlook and go somewhere else, or how does the competition or potential for competition from other hunters factor into your scouting?
Well, that's a real good question, Andy. I look at the territory and how easy accessible it is to get in and out, and most of the time, if you've got a population of turkey, you're going to have a lot of turkey hunters there. I try to find a place as remote, maybe not as big, a small area. It might be a peninsula on off of one of the lakes, Kentucky Lake or Lake Barkley, and hard to get to. I might have to walk a little. I might get up and hear him for a long distance and then go to him, and things like that. And another thing I do on this public hunting ground that I learned right off was we hunt in the afternoon here in Kentucky and Tennessee, just like you do in Alabama. I learned to hunt these turkeys in the middle of the day and afternoon. For years, I didn't have much competition doing that. And now a lot of people have caught on that you can kill turkeys in the middle of the day and the afternoon just like you can in the morning. What I used to do, I'd take this public hunting ground and I'd drive around. There's lots of people camping. And I only enjoy talking to turkey hunters. So I'd stop and get acquainted with them, talk to them. And it'd be in the middle of the day, they'd be eating lunch or something, and they'd tell me, I never will forget this guy told me, he said, I left one up there and I worked him for 3 hours. I sat there and never did see him. And I thought to myself, he's got that backwards. That turkey worked him for 3 hours. Because he was in the wrong location. But anyway, they tell me that and then tell me where he's at. And I said, y'all hunting this afternoon? He said, no, I'm going to rest. And boy, that's all I need to know. And he would be just so easy. So that turkey gobbled all day and he'd sit in one place. He never got in the right location for that turkey to want to come to him. So those two things I learned: to hunt in the middle of the day and the afternoon. After those hens leave them, a lot of times they're going to get vocal again, And I learned how to cut. When I say cut, cutting like a turkey, the cutting sound. And I learned to do that, and I tell you what, that was a great locator call. And those turkeys would answer you. If he ever answers you in the middle of the day or early afternoon, most of the time that turkey's going to come to you.
Absolutely.
And again, I would get in my truck and I'd drive around till I see these people camping. I'd talk to them, And most of the time they love to tell you what they've heard and how bad ones fooled him and all that. And I love to hear the story. Somebody told me, I'd like to know, Andy, how many thousands of turkey stories I've heard over the years. But I still like to hear them. And I don't mind sitting and listening to a guy who wants to talk about how a turkey whipped him, or he couldn't call him up. He called him up and scared him, or something. And I still like to hear them stories. And I'd sit around and listen to these people, and they tell me where they heard one and what he's doing, and I'd go try him out, if he wasn't going hunting.
Right.
And a lot of times he'd whoop me. A lot of times I'd get him. But that's the fun of turkey hunting.
Absolutely. I haven't met many hunters that are not good storytellers, so I'm right there with you. I love to sit and talk to folks, and you not only get an entertaining story most of the time, but you can also glean some sort of information, whether it's something about that particular turkey or something about turkey hunting in general. So it's always good to get those stories.
Yeah, absolutely. And I tell you something else. All these people, most every turkey hunter have a turkey call with him. I'm always fascinated about his call and how he calls them and what kind of call he uses, and just everything. It's enjoyable to talk to people that really likes to turkey hunt, because he really likes turkey hunt. He's gonna put the time and effort to learn all he can, and by gosh, he can teach you something. Just because I've hunted for 60 years don't mean that I can't learn something. I can tell you that. I feel like I learn something every day I go out. But public hunting ground, it's fun. It's rewarding when you get to kill your big old gobbler that's been chased by a lot of people, and it's a little tougher. Another thing too, I've hunted, ground in different states, public hunting ground. Even in the state you live in, Alabama, I hunt a lot of places in Alabama. I've hunted from Barber County around Eufaula all the way down to Moundville, and all the way just about every county. I bet I've hunted 30 or 40 counties in Alabama. And Alabama has got a real good wild turkey. I can tell you that. He's a wild dude. He's a wild, and I've run into some of them down there that put me on my butt. And then every now and then I kill one. But I tell you what, you got a good wild turkey in Alabama. And that's what I raised on all my life in here in the land between the lakes. A real wild turkey. That sucker is wild.
Yeah, I went on a fantastic turkey hunt this year to North Dakota, South Dakota, and we ended up killing there pretty quickly. So we went to Montana and we hunted public land. And I like hunting those birds that don't get a lot of pressure, because they sure do make you feel good. But there's something about killing a bird that has been hunted, and he's a smart bird, and he's wily, and he's going to do everything he can do to outsmart you in the woods. And something to hunting that bird and being successful killing him that you just can't replace by killing these birds that you can slam the truck door and they come running up to you.
Yeah.
So.
Another tip on the hunting public hunting ground too that I do over the years, I try to figure out what the biggest majority of the people, what kind of call they're using. And I try to get something with a different pitch, Might be a higher pitch or something, just different. And and sometime at the end of the season over in the land between the lakes or even Fort Campbell somewhere, I'll use a tube call. Something that's just totally different, pitch. And you might be surprised how the turkeys react to that at the end of the season. And another thing I do in public hunting ground, I look at a map, a topo map, and I find all old grown up fields and places where these hens go to nest. And invariably at the time these hens go to nesting, it's so the end of the season, turkey hunting is getting tough. But boy, them turkeys will follow those hens right to those nesting areas, down these old growed up fields. And I've learned to hunt there. And at the very end of the season, if I ever hear them gobble, I'm not going to, the turkeys here in public hunting ground, they tone their calling down real, not much at all. It's very in the season, the hens. The hens not near as vocal. And that's what I do. Call, it's just a real light yelp or something. Just a poot, 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 just something real light. And just let him know I'm there, then I shut up. Next thing you know, you see it big white and red head looking at you.
Yeah.
You got to change your calling at the end of the season, just a lot less calling. And you get by a lot of calling the first of the season, the middle of the season. At the end of the season, you don't want to hear all that calling.
Right. Yeah, that's an interesting point, because I've had some people tell me, and now, they're people that I would consider to be turkey hunting experts, tell me that when they hunt public land, that they really don't do anything different than they do in their own private land, except they're going to cover more ground. They're just going to run and gun and keep going until they find a turkey that wants to play ball, and they're going to call just as much and call just as loud as they normally would. But that's just their philosophy, is just keep going until you find one that wants to play ball. What are your thoughts about that? What do you do differently, if anything, on public land than private land? Do you like to run and gun when you're on public land? Or
I do not use a decoy on public land. I don't use a blind on public ground. And one of the old, David Hale and I, my partner, we hunted the lots on public ground. And we get out and we call these turkeys. And if one answered one time, that's great. But we never would go to him if he didn't answer twice or three times. Because a lot of times a turkey, you get out and start cutting to him, they give you a courtesy gobble, I call it, or a shot gobble.
Right.
And he's going to have to gobble 2 times or 3 before I leave the truck to go after him. So I don't get all excited on one just gobbling once. I'm like the person you're talking about, I really like to get one that's hot and fired up. And that's what I like, is trying to find one that's really cranked up, ready to go.
Right. What are some of the strategies that you can share with us that'll help us have more success on the heavily pressured birds? You mentioned hunting midday, which is a fantastic strategy because for 2 reasons. There's less hunters in the woods, and you're finding a turkey. If you can get one hot in the middle of the day, you got a real good chance of killing him. But what are some other strategies that you use on heavily pressured birds on public land?
All right, when I hunt that morning, I listen real good to see how many turkeys I hear. If it's on one of them good still mornings where I can hear a long way, I'm taking inventory is what I'm doing. And of course, them turkeys gonna gobble for a few minutes, and then most of the time they lie down. They probably start strutting around a hen or something.
Right.
But I listen where they at. If I'm not successful that morning, I feel good about going back that afternoon. I get back in that same area where I heard them, and most of the time, they might be around a little creek bottom, or they might be around an old field or something. And I'm going to try to get as close as I can to where I heard them turkeys gobble. Because I've noticed lots of times, an old gobbler, well, he'll always roost around, where he hears these hens. He hears them. He knows where them hens is roosting. He might not be in the same tree. He might be 5 trees over or a hill over. But he's keeping up with them. And what a turkey to do, when they fly down, those hens has got one thing in mind, that's feeding. They're going to take off walking. I call it a milk run. They just like they're going to make them a big circle, milk run. And that old gobbler's going to strut right with them. And what's going to happen, he's going to strut, and they're going to end up almost in the same place they started out. Not in the same tree. I'm going to get you up in the same tree and roost. Not in Kentucky and Tennessee, because we got millions of trees. Now, out in South Dakota, they might come back to the same tree because they ain't got many big trees. They might come back to that old big cottonwood or something every night. But here in Kentucky and Tennessee and Alabama, these turkeys going to roost in a different tree every night. And but he'll come back to the same area. And you just be in there and be patient. He's not going to start gobbling every breath like he will early in the morning, but he will around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. A lot of times, if he ain't got that hen in his side, he's going to try to find her, and he's going to start gobbling.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the things I do with hunting in the afternoon. I sit there and I listen. And I try to get in that same area that where I heard him that morning, get as close as I can. And I have sit there, be sitting, around an old field or something where you can see out in it. Of course, them turkeys like the fields, in the afternoon.
Right.
And I get around those. If I was hunting on public ground, I'd have me a decoy out, maybe a blind. But on private ground, I don't use any decoys at all, or public ground. And I just don't, afraid of hunter interference, somebody coming up and seeing it. These decoys look so real now. If somebody shoot one of them, I love being in the target area where he's shooting. And that's the reason I don't take it. But I do use a decoy a lot. And Andy, another thing I've noticed a trend right now in the turkey hunting industry, and the turkey hunters, and I talk to a bunch, and I go to a lot of shows all over the United States, talk to several thousand turkey hunters a year. And these turkey hunters now are taking these fans, and I can witness that with some of the people I'm hunting with, and I've done it to a certain extent with decoy. Take a fan and they walk it up on these turkeys,
right.
And a turkey thinks it's another gobbler. I'm sure strutting. That's what he thinks, and next thing you know, he's there in range. He shoots him, and that's fine. But I'm gonna tell you something. I just hope and pray that we don't have any fatalities doing that, because I'm gonna tell you that could be dangerous.
Extremely.
And I cringe every time I hear these kids, a lot of these young kids around here doing that. I just hope you got to identify a target, and boy, that thing looks like a real turkey coming at you. Because most of them puts a fan out there with a turkey head, and get on their knees and walk. I told you, turkey. But that's not my cup of tea. I still like to get out there and sit up and try to call him up.
Right.
And that's what I like to do. But I have to use decoys or blind sometimes. That's not my style of hunting, but you have to do it a lot of times when you got a film crew with you, trying to hide 3 or 4 people. These wild turkey, they can see pretty damn good.
That's for sure. And I think sometimes you have to do that if you want to fill a tag. I can't stand sitting still when I'm turkey hunting, because it just reminds me too much of deer hunting. But sometimes you just have to do it.
Well, I told somebody this year that I hunted several states, and I felt like I was deer hunting about half the time. That's what these turkeys wasn't responding all that good. And you can get out there in the field and put a decoy up, and you can kill a turkey. A lot of times he strut right up to you and fight that turkey and decoy and you put a show on. It just depends on what you like. I enjoy about every aspect of it, I guess. But my favorite is running, gunning, and you just can't do that when you got cameras with you and several people. You're just making too much motion, and turkey's gonna see you. Especially these dang old wild eastern turkey. You might get by in Texas or some of your mirroring turkey doing that out west. I've hunted out in Nebraska and Kansas and some of those states there where they got those hybrid turkey and stuff, and they were very easy compared to the eastern turkey I'm used to hunting here. But I still enjoyed it.
Absolutely. That's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of the Turkey Hunter Podcast. Be sure to tune in next week for part 3 of episode 7, our interview with Harold Knight, where Harold is going to share with us some additional public land turkey hunting safety tips, and he's also going to share the story of his most recent turkey kill and what made that hunt successful. So be sure to tune in next week for that. Also, be sure to tune in to Harold's show, Sheffield's Ultimate Hunting, on the Outdoor Channel. It airs several times during the week, so be sure to check your local listings for that. Thanks again for tuning in. I look forward to seeing you next week, and I hope you have a great week. Goodbye. Thanks for tuning in. You were just listening to the Turkey Hunter podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please go on over to iTunes and leave a 5-star review. And make sure to head over to www.iamturkeyhunting.com to subscribe for free turkey hunting tips, tactics, strategies, and product reviews to help you have a more successful turkey season. And stay tuned for upcoming episodes on hunting afternoon birds, how to film your hunt, and the breeding cycle of hens, as well as some guest interviews. Thanks again for listening. We know your time is valuable, and we appreciate you sharing some of it with us. See you next week.